will be recorded.
All right, hi guys. Greetings from quarantine. So as promised, here is 108.3 that I'm going to be going over today. So we didn't cover this one in the other two lectures that we had. This one is pretty long, so figured I would do this one a little bit later. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here, and then we will get started. This out of the way. All right, 108.3, long hair skills. So how important do you think your technical skills are in gaining long hair referrals? All right, so there is a saying in the hair world, or cosmetology world, fake it until you make it. So basically what that means is even if your technical skills are not exactly where they need to be to have your clientele get built on your technical skills alone, that you have people skills. You pull them in because they enjoy being around you, things like that. And usually that is the case. Case studies do show that more people keep going to their hairstylist because they like the person, maybe even more so than the work that they do. But I am here to tell you that your technical skills are extremely important, because while that will get you by, it's not something that is going to, or to be more specific, while your personality is going to get you by, it's not going to get you by forever. Right? And it might not get you in the exact place that you want to be. So technical skills are extremely important, and especially when it comes to long hair design. I mean, yeah, you could get up on stage and do stand up, but if your client doesn't like their updo, they're going to be upset about it. Remember, these are specific and special occasions that your clients are going to when they are coming to you for an updo. All right, this is such a pretty updo. I love it. Oh, it's so beautiful. She's got a wonderful hairline too. All right. So commonly used tools, and this was actually in our previous one. So we have our thermal rollers. Those are the rollers that are hot before they come out of their little home. You plug their home in and they get hot and you take them out, put them in the hair. Then we have our thermal irons like our Marcel and blow dryer and attachments. And then right over on the right, we have our diffuser. All right, long hair procedures. So all of your updos or your long hair designs that you do are going to occur in these 5 phases, whether you know that you're doing it or not. You'll have distribute, section, part, apply, and detail. So distribute, use throughout long hair design service. So this is going to define our overall direction of the design, okay? Now I know that sometimes we have long hair designs that move in multiple directions, but for the most part, most of the hair is going to be moving in one direction. And if that's not the case, then you would want to distribute all of those different parts towards the beginning so that you don't get lost. And I know that we have discussed that in my previous lectures, that distribution in the beginning is everything. You do not want to end up with hair distributed in the wrong place. So let's say someone comes in, your client comes in and they want this really low bun. If you distribute all that hair a little too high up, it's not what she wanted. Now we have to do the whole thing over again after we finish it when we find that out. So yeah, you want to have the perfect base to work with before you start going in there and doing everything else. So this determines the direction in which the eye will travel throughout the design. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. All right, so generally performed in direction hair will be worn. So here we go. This lady right here has hers up on the crown. Now here we go. This is perfect. And we've talked about this one before as well, this gorgeous updo. Now she has 2 different distribution points. That's perfectly okay. But we would want to figure that out in the beginning, right? We don't want to pull everything back and then try to pull this back out. We got to think about it before we go in there. And then especially something like this over here on the right, this asymmetric updo, which I think looks like asymmetrical Minnie Mouse ears, and I'm into that. Yeah, so you would want to figure this out right in the very beginning. She has, it looks like 3 different. She's got her side part moving over here to her right, and then these little almost chignons on top of her head that are moving in different directions. So very intricate updo, very fun. All right, so sectioning, it allows us to gain control, separates areas of design with different techniques. And then the number of sections depends on desired results, as we saw in the previous slide. Right, so this one would be up into the crown area. This would be a little bit more distributed. All right, so sectioning options for long hair design include the front, back, occipital, hairline, fringe, nape, and crown. All right, so we have our front, the back, the occipital, hairline, and hairline always plays a big role in updos. So don't forget, the vast majority of our updos are actually up. They're all the way up. Then fringe area right in here. Then we have our nape. Oops, always got to do that. We have our nape and then the crown right up here. All right, so hair often distributed to sectioned areas to position ponytails. Perfect. Oh, and we discussed this one last time too. This is the technique that you have to be very careful with, otherwise it could come out looking a little undesirable. So when you do this technique, which is a twisting technique, it consists of one ponytail, and then from there, that ponytail is going to get distributed into different strands that you twist, and then you pin up this way. And we have to be careful about the design of that. It can get away from us really fast. Okay, increased number of ponytails or sections, right? So here looks like we have started out with two different ponytails. So this ponytail was distributed this way, and then there's one down here. So 1 and 2, and then they knotted all sort of together to give it a pretty sleek knotted effect. Now, no ponytails are used for this one, so that means that you would need to section as you work. So this is one of those updos that isn't really meant to ever be recreated the exact same way or close to the exact same way. It's really about what the artist is feeling at that time, but if you were to perform the same one on someone else, it's going to come out a little bit different, right? Because he's just kind of sectioning as we go. Similar to our like brick laper, when we're doing that, you just section as you go. All right, and then we have some updos that have very, very distinct partings. So you would have to section all of this out first before you go in and start doing your cute little twist. And over here, we have a nice braid that you do section as you go along and you continue to add hair. All right, so many partings combined create design, surface, and texture. So that is generally true. The more sections you have, the more texture you're going to see. The less sectioning you have, probably the less sectioning, or I'm sorry, the less texture your final overall design is going to be. So right here in this updo, we have a lot of different sections. There's a lot of texture as opposed to this one right here. There's not as much texture. More of a definite shape happening. This one's a little sassier, a little more fun. All right, so direction of partings may be straight, curved, zigzagged, irregular. Irregular means you can part it any way you want to. In most cases, partings reflect the direction in which the hair will be worn. Oh, here we go, more partings will usually result in more texture. So detail, textural interest and individual smaller shapes. Yep, so, oh, whoa. Sorry guys, oh my gosh, I have cats. My apologies. All right, so a single ponytail divided into 5 partings creates a moderate amount of detail. So this starts out as a ponytail, and then from there you distribute it into different sections and then pin it up. And many individual partings were used to form loops throughout the interior, creating intricacy. Oh my goodness, excuse me, intricacy. Yeah, very pretty. So the design that we're using here is similar to this one right here. Kind of section as you go. And it looks very whimsical, very pretty. Both of those look very pretty. All right, then partings, excuse me, may also be incorporated into one technique, as with on the scalp designs such as cornrows. So these are exposed partings, and they can be an intentional aspect of the design. Yep, so we have our cornrows. lots of braids, and then on the scalp partings is what creates our cornrows. Very pretty design. So this one has a curve that goes with the head. Very interesting. And foundational long hair techniques include the following. And now this doesn't mean that these are the only techniques that you can use, but these are foundational, meaning they're very, very common, and you can get pretty much any updo you want by using these techniques. So we have our twists. This would be taking smaller sections of the hair and twisting them up and pinning them. This was very popular in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Then we have our knots. So we are actually tying hair here. You just have to be careful when you're doing this technique, because as we know, you can actually really damage the hair by knotting it in very small sections. You can create actual terrible knots in the hair that you won't be able to get out. So when you're doing this technique, just ensure that you're doing it purposefully and temporarily. All right, then we have our overlaps. Okay, so this is more of like a crisscross. You'll notice that she's got a very simple, it looks like a weave pattern going on, very pretty. Then our braids. Our loops. So this is essentially just flipping the hair backwards and pinning it. It gives you a flowery appeal. Something that I will say about these and about the twists in particular is that pinning these is the difficult part. Notice how smooth that hair is. Bobby pins don't hold on to smooth hair as well as we would love them to. So this, even though it seems like it's really easy, I think that the magic trick here is getting those bobby pins to really stay in the hair, and that is, the success of that depends on your prepping of the hair beforehand. All right, and then we have our roll. So that's our French twist that we have. Yeah, it looks like a little croissant. French twist, same thing, getting those bobby pins to stay and getting everything to be nice and smooth. Very tricky. All right, so backcombing and brushing. So we talked about this during 108.2. So backcombing and back brushing controls overall individual shape. So you can create more width, more roundness, more bulk in an updo in places that you're trying to create height and fullness. You'll need to do some backcombing. So mostly performed with loop and roll designs to increase volume and expansion. Yep, all backcombing in through here. Securing, yep, that tricky part. Exactly. You've got to be very strategical about where you're pinning everything in updos like this. So generally, usually bobby pins or hairpins are used to secure, generally intended to be concealed or hidden and positioned beneath surface or within the shapes. Now, I know that in recent years, we've been seeing those pretty gold bobby pins, which we want people to see. That's what it means, generally intended. Sometimes you have, I guess, hairpins or bobby pins in the hair that you want people to see, but for the most part, when you're doing this, you really don't. These are the bobby pins that don't look cute when you can see them. All right, securing ponytails, usually secured with elastic band and 1 or 2 bobby pins. Very true. Those elastics are absolutely key. So putting our hair up into ponytails before pinning everything down helps to avoid the hair to move. It helps to secure that foundation. And it keeps everything nice and smooth and tight and positioned correctly, especially with something like this. Whenever you have that weight, it's going to want to fall out. I'm sure that all of us have experienced that before, our ponytails falling out. That's why it's important to have an elastic. They call it an elastic because it has that elastic texture to it. It's not covered in the fabric. We don't want anything slippery in the hair when we're creating updos. So here's our bobby pin technique. This one's a little, to me, it's a little bit difficult to kind of follow through. I do want all of you guys to try this out, just to make sure that you're understanding what's going on here. But all right, so you prepare the elastic band, okay? So you put your bobby pin right through that loop, okay? And you'll put your thumb, hook band around the thumb, hold the bobby pin, wrap band around the hair. Okay, so this band here is still on her thumb. It's kind of hard to see, but it is still on her thumb. So she's basically just grabbing the hair and then just pulled it up and around this way. All right, so continue wrapping band around hair. So we're gonna wrap that a couple times. The end of the band wrapped around the thumb into the bobby pin. So the bobby pin goes right through that little piece that was holding onto your thumb. Now you can pull the bobby pin up slightly, turn it a little downward so that the open end faces gathered hair, and then you push it underneath the base of the ponytail. All right, and then our second bobby pin technique that we have here, so you prepare an elastic band sliding 2 bobby pins into it. Gather the hair into the position holding hand close to head. Insert 1 bobby pin, base of intended ponytail, at the base of the intended ponytail, and then push hand firmly against head to hold bobby pin in place, wrap band around hair. There we go, so it's going all the way through. And then push second pin into hair close to head, crisscrossing first bobby pin to interlock, making an X. Very complicated technique. If it were me, I would stick to this one. This one's a little trickier. All right. So detailing refers to finishing techniques performed along the way or as a final phase to personalize. So detailing in long hair designs include refining, smoothing stray hairs into place, using finishing and shine sprays, and double checking pins. Yeah, just making sure everything is nice and secure. So long hair pins can be used to temporarily control the formation of shapes, textural detail, and movements within a design. So this one is really long. So you would want to use this one for designs you have that there ends up being like a lot of hair in there. All of a sudden those regular size bobby pins or hairpins aren't really cutting it anymore. You need one of those long ones. And then you can also use these cute little accessories. These were very popular a few years ago. I don't see them as much right now. I find that a lot of women are just using natural flowers. I feel like that's kind of all the rage right now. But these are still very common. Detailing. This is an excellent, I love that this one is first. When detailing, include following: step back. That is so important. Step away from your work, just back up, because the whole time you have been completely inside of it. And every once in a while, you'll kind of forget about different perspectives other than your own. Then you step away from it and notice that your long hair design that you just spent a long time on is a little bit off. It's good to just step back and make sure that things are going well, especially during the final stages. All right, so you want to circle around your client, make sure that everything is looking good from all sides. You have to look at them head on in the mirror. I know sometimes we get a little bit nervous when these are our first ones that we're doing, but you have got to just look right into the mirror. You got to let them look. And hope they don't make you more nervous. All right, so look for pins that are showing or loose. So if you have any bobby pins that are getting squeezed back out, or if you see any bobby pins that maybe slipped a little bit and you can see them and they're showing, we need to hide them. So you can make your adjustments at this point. All right. Now you can also use these combs. It kind of looks like he's going this way, but he's not, or she's combing this upwards. Probably sprayed a little hairspray on this comb and then combed it upwards. So that is a technique that you can use so that you're not spraying something directly onto the hair. Like maybe that might be a little bit too heavy. You can spray your comb and then gently comb this through, and that will help lay down any of those little like hairs, those little stray breakage hairs that might be sticking out. All right, so apply a product finishing spray and then add accessories if you want. I wish I could tell what those were. Berries? She has berries in her hair. Yeah, All right. Yeah, so flowers, veils, for weddings, decorated pins, headbands, and tiaras. This is very pretty. It really adds something to it. I like a nice little accessory in an updo. All right. So we have our off scalp designs and then on the scalp designs. So off scalp is like a ponytail technique or anything that it doesn't include having to work very, very close to the scalp throughout the entire service. But then on the scalp designs, you do have to work very close to the scalp throughout. So this is usually your braids, pretty much your braids. All right, and then so here are twists again. Consist of 1, 2, or sometimes 3 strands of hair intertwined, sometimes even more than that. I mean, it really just depends on how small you want your twist to be and how intricate you want them to look in the back, but it does create a rope-like appearance. All right, so results affected by tension, size of strand, and the direction. Yeah, so you could do clockwise or counterclockwise. I mean, you could really just go all the way with it. I'd say the tighter you wind these up, I guess it looks a little bit more like whimsical, especially when you're building that height there. A lot of fun. And you can tell that this one has used more smaller strands. And then this one up here, not so much. Oh my gosh, why? Not so much. We probably only have maybe 2 or 3 back here when there's probably about 5 in this one. So pretty cool. Multiple single tightly twisted strands. Yep, highly textured. Very cool. All right, then we have a multiple single strand twist. So each twisted tightly from its own base or parting and coiled upon itself. So it creates the Bantu knot style. Very cute. Yep. And then the 2 strands lightly twisted can create a loop-like effect. And this is a very easy bun technique. Helps create that texture. Cool. All right, then we have our 2 strand double twists. So these can be actually braided onto the scalp, and then towards the bottom you can start doing your 2 strand twist. And you really have to get a lot of tension in there, and it has to be a very tight twist for it to stay. And then 3 strands intertwined and twisted can also create tight rope-like appearance. Now hair texture does come into play here. So with your natural hair, it will be able to hold a little bit better because of the natural texture of the hair. So 2 strand twists look amazing. Now, if you're going to try to do a 2 strand twist on much finer hair, it might not be as successful. You'll have to use different techniques to help keep it in there. And then you can use little bands, which are usually, well, I won't say usually, but often suggested at the ends of hair when you're doing 2 strand twists or any strand twists to help keep it in. But you will need a little bit of extra help if you're doing twists on finer texture. Like there's definitely bobby pins, definitely tons of hairspray, things like that going on in here. And then on our natural hair, we won't need as much help. All right, and then our knots. All right, so knots can be applied on or off the scalp, tied in clockwise or counterclockwise directions, applied in small individual partings. Guys, you can apply knots pretty much anywhere. So we have single strand knots. That's what these are going to look like. So we've tied those all over, and notice how that they are loose. Please don't tightly knot somebody's hair and destroy it. That would not be good. And then we have our two strand knots, so created from 2 different ponytails. This is a nice big knot. She'll be able to take this out later. Overlaps, the crossing of 2 strands of hair. So over one another, it creates a crisscross effect. So like our fishtail braids, that's a crisscross. This mannequin has a ton of hair, goodness. And then we have our braids. There are all different types of braids. I think most of us are pretty familiar with these through childhood, but they are also known as twine, plait, pleat, weave, intertwine, and interlock. So braids, the two most common braiding methods, we have the 3-strand over braid. This is also known as the French or the invisible braid. I think this is the first braid that everybody learns how to do. And if that was not your first braid that you learned how to do, I am amazed, and you're amazing. And then 3-strand under braid, known as the visible braid. So that's the braid that sits on top. All right, so braids, they are classified according to the number of strands used. The 3-strand braid is the foundation of all braids, which is why it's usually that first one that we learn how to do. Oh, I apologize, you guys, the cat's joining us. I'm sorry, Mr. Cat, I'm in class. So don't mind him, that's Loki. All right, so once the 3-strand braid has been established, adjacent strands are woven towards the center. And any of these braids can be performed off the scalp, from a ponytail, or on the scalp. So we have our 3-strand over braid here. And then our 3-strand under braid. All right, so this is our visible braid and our invisible braid. So the traditional 3-strand is more of like a zipper technique. And then this one, it looks more of like a rope. Right, so our 3-strand under braids perform in small, often parallel sections. They're also known as cornrows. All right, so our under braids, that's what our cornrows are, but they go with the scalp all the way through the hair, very, very close to the scalp, and typically in tight sections. And then the multiple strand braids create wider patterns of intricate woven texture. Wow, so that's an amazing braid. Very, very pretty. And then we have our loops. Folding, bending, or encircling of the hair strands. All right, so to achieve a multitude of loop design possibilities, vary the size, dimension, position, and the shape. So here we have different types of loops. Cool. So this one we saw this one a little bit earlier in the PowerPoint. This one, you flip it backwards and then you bobby pin it. Now here we have kind of a victory roll situation happening, but just throughout the hair. Oh, sorry guys. And then this one's a little bit more cylindrical or triangular. I'm going to tell you right now, just from looking at this updo here, this would be extremely challenging to keep from falling out. There is so much hairspray in there. Probably a mixture of hairspray and heat, which turns the hair into cement so that you can bobby pin it and make it stay. But this would be a lot harder than it actually looks. And then she has multiple points of distribution as well. All right, and then over here we have like a clover leaf effect, it looks like. So giant loops over on the right hand side, the left hand side, and then in the nape area. All right, and then notice how we're using that rat tail comb over here just to help us detail. So these can be extremely useful because, of course, during our updos, it consists of most of the time a lot of small parts that maybe our fingers, if we try to get them in there, we're going to end up just kind of ruining the design at some point. So you can use that to get into smaller sections and just really hone in on those parts that you need to focus on or fix. All right, here's, and then our rolling technique, both of these are French twists. They're just variations of the other. Over here on the left, this is your like late 90s, early 2000s version of the French twist. This was very popular. I mean, there's almost no difference between these two. The only difference is that this one's a little bit tighter and it's more centered. And then the top was left messy. So when the whole front gets brushed into the back, it's left whimsy and just kind of sprouting that way. It just makes it look a little younger, I think, a little sassier. Then over here on the right, we have our traditional French twist, which takes over, it's more over to the side. It's not really supposed to be 100% center. It goes or that way, and it looks like a croissant. It kind of does. And then everything in the front is pulled back and it's all extremely smooth and it looks very classic and business attire appropriate. It's always what I think when I look at a French twist. I think like business meeting. All right, and you guys know how I am with these, so we're just gonna, here we go. All right, so experienced designers find preparing the hair with wet and thermal design techniques prior to putting it up unnecessary. Yeah, very false. And I went over this with you guys in our last meeting as well. When one of your clients, or you know, in the past, I know that we've all heard somebody we're receiving an updo from, or maybe from somebody who's received an updo in the past, they'll give us the advice, go in with your hair dirty. Nobody wants you to have dirty hair. Nobody wants you to have dirty hair. And you don't want your client to have dirty hair, so please don't tell them come in with dirty hair. The recommended is that the hair is just not freshly washed. The reason why that is because the hair is going to be probably very nice and soft, so it's not going to have texture like we want it to be. We'll have to work a little bit harder to get texture in there. And then the other thing too is that if, you know, they took a shower that morning, they washed their hair and they let it dry, they probably didn't put any prepping stuff in it whatsoever. You know, why would they? They're going to come to the professional stylist and we're going to take care of it. But yeah, so you can tell your clients either come on in, we'll do the blow dry, we'll take care of all of it, and then we'll do your updo, or tell them 24 hours, give their hair, maybe wash it the night before they come in, or not the morning that they're supposed to be coming in, but the morning before that. It's kind of preference. It's up to you. Once you figure out what you like from your clients when you get there. All right, so the long hair design procedures are distribute, section, parts, apply, and detail. Totally true. So in long designing, the overall direction of the design is defined by the distribution. Now, distribution is the first thing that you're going to do, and it creates the foundation for your design. Very important. So when hair is distributed to a specific area to position a ponytail, the result is a concentration of volume. All right. In long hair design, partings are used to subdivide larger sections of hair for control. That's always what our partings are for, control, and to keep us organized. So 1, 2, or 3 strands of hair intertwined and or rotated to form a rope-like appearance are called twists. The interlacing or typing together of a single strand or 2 strands of hair is called a knot. And then the 2 most common braiding methods are the 3-strand over braid and the 3-strand under braid. Yep, 2 most common, 3-strand over and 3-strand under. So the folding, bending, or encircling of hair strands, which are then secured in a curvature shape, are known as loops. And then the long hair design method that consists of hair that is wrapped or wound within itself is referred to as rolls. So you guys do want to remember all of those. Those will be state board questions, and they will be on future tests as well. All right. Fantastic. So let me bring this back over to me. Yay. All right, guys. Well, that was it. Just wanted to go over that with you guys, and then I will see you on Tuesday. All right. Bye, guys.